Bizarre Brain Comics. Plop. Oh. Hello, everybody. This is Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk about the characters and the creators, and then examine the stories and the art. This time, we're going to go back to the days of 1974 with DC Comics and have a look at this weird and demented book, Plop, number 6. Plop, plop. Yes, Plop. I wish they would bring that back. That would be one worth getting. Plop, the new magazine of weird humor. Yep, it sure is. Not new, but let's take a look in the book of knowledge. Yeah, I have done a Plop once before. And that time I just briefly took a look in the book and went into detail on the one story that was drawn by Ramona Fraden. That's who it was. This time it's going to be different. Wrong one. No. There we are. This is Plop number 6. From DC Comics in 1974. Plop! I've talked about it, as I said, I talked about it before, but we're going to talk about it again just a little bit. Plop. It was an anthology humor horror comic from DC. And it lasted for 24 issues from 1973 through 1976. And Steve Skeates, who is one of the primary writers for Plop, he said that the title was based around a story that he wrote, which was the poster plague for House of Mystery. Supposedly, when that story was drawn dramatically, it worked as a straight horror story. But when it was drawn in a cartoonish fashion, it was funny. And so they took that, because they many times some of the gags that are in here and the single panel gags they would have sometimes in their mystery titles, and sometimes they would have humorous horror stories, very similar to what appears here. Said Plop uses the horror hosts Cain, Abel, and Eve from other DC mystery horror titles as they tell humorous stories of a horrific nature. I like that. I wrote that line myself. I like that line. Humorous stories of a horrific nature. I just talked about Steve Skeates a little bit, not too long ago. If I remember correctly, he wrote that Aquaman story that I talked about a few episodes back. He did all kinds of stuff. had a lot of great work and creators going into Plop. It's just sad that it didn't last longer or expand because, but make no bones about it, it is a horror mystery title. It is just done humorously. It is very much like had the same kind of stories that they had in House of Mystery, House of Secrets, Ghosts, and the like. So very dark, very macabre, but a funny bone. Here, let's visit the world of Plop. Plop. Yeah. Here, we'll get a better view of that cover if you want it, if you want to. Fly me, I'm Josephine. Of course, great, funny, bizarre Basil Wolverton cover. And then you see it again on the back cover. A better view of it. And yeah. They used a lot of Basil Wolverton's drawings. They weren't necessarily for this title, because he did a lot of these kind of drawings for years. And then Wally Wood did the same kind of drawings for the covers. Now, this isn't even my copy. This is my wife's copy. It's the one that I don't have. So. And of course, she's into aviation. So and this is this "Fly Me, I'm Josephine," which was a play on ads for an airline. Had the stewardesses say, "I'm so and so, fly me," for I think it was United Airlines or something like that. And so that reminded her of this. I did a whole episode on Basil Wolverton before, and we will be seeing him again. He did some great horror stuff and some science fiction, a lot of humor. He's best known for his humor. These kind of humorous illustrations. But he did some really horrific looking stuff for horror and illustrations for a religious magazine depicting the apocalypse, as I showed those before. Yeah, I just love Basil Wolverton's work. When I first really became aware of his work, of course I had seen this kind of stuff, but I didn't know who he was. And probably the first stuff that I had seen by him was some of his science fiction stuff, and I wasn't thrilled with it. But then the more I saw it, looked at it, and was exposed to it, I began to see the genius in it. And then later had the horror stuff. But he's best known for his humor. We're going to go through and just look at some of the stories in here, but I want to go in more depth on I think it's the last story in the book, which is drawn by Bill Draut. I presume that's how you pronounce his name. That's the way it's spelled. Bill Draut, from 1921 to 1993. He's an American comic book artist, best known for his work at Harvey Comics and DC. He started his career in the 1940s on the Sergeant Stony Craig newspaper strip. I've never heard of that one. After time in the Marines, he moved to comic books at Harvey. And he even worked with Joe Simon and Jack Kirby at Crestwood Publications. In 56, he started at DC drawing romance comics, then moved on to their mystery titles. And he did some work on Teen Titans. This is either penciling or inking. And he did some work on the Teen Titans and the Phantom Stranger. You don't see back then in the 70s, Phantom Stranger had his own title. I'd kind of like to get some of those. I used to have a few issues. And he did character designs for the G.I. Joe animated series. Wow. So now let's delve a little more deeply into Plop. And of course, I've got the table contents page. It starts with our horror hosts, drawn by Sergio Aragones. He was probably the most frequent and most consistent cartoonist on this title. And here we have it's Cain, Abel, and Eve. They're in at the scientist's place. Seeing this crazy scientist here. Well, I'll talk more about Sergio Aragones another time. I love his work, especially his Gru. So we'll do Gru one of these days. And got a little time machine. They're gonna go into the future for something. And here we go. Some nice pacing here in these panels. And whoop, whoop, whoop. And suddenly, they didn't go forward in time. They went back in time to the Stone Age. To the age of dinosaurs and cavemen, which did not coexist. Gulp, this isn't exactly how I expected 8374 to look. That's my Eve. Nope. And surrounded by these cavemen. So they try to approach him, try to be friendly, saying they're going to tell him some stories. And whack! Not a word from him. Just a whack. The old Eve's not happy. Whack! Then Abel, he comes up, booga, 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 whack! Well, then, now Cain, he's really ticked off. Grabs a club, whacks the guy, and then they get a response. Oh! And you got to say this here's this caveman speaking like a British aristocrat. Jolly good. It's about time you started acting like human beings, and now that we've been properly introduced, please proceed with your intended mission. We'll be delighted to listen to your narrations. And then everyone gathers around, and then they get talking to the stories, and start with a few gags here. Oh, funny, monster plops. I like this one. Will you shut up about the energy crisis and get on with the experiment? Of course, that plays into the time when they had the energy crisis and stuff. Into the first story. Now this one is drawn, written by Steve Skeates and drawn by Mike Sikowski, and he's best known for stuff like early Justice League of America, and later, of course, he did a lot of romance comics. And a Wonder Woman when she was had no powers. It was in like 68 to 71 or so. Little story here. The guy was some kind of gangster, and got a scientist, had himself frozen till he was the statute of limitations for his crimes would run out. Then they're supposed to thaw him out. They're getting ready to go through the thawing process. One of the big glunky guy bumps into the ice cube. It cracks, falls over and crashes and busts the boss into a million pieces. Prison plops. These are always good. More just single panel gags. These are the kind of stuff that you'd see in, except for the macabre humor, you'd see in like in Mad Magazine. And Sergio, and I think this art cartoonist, what's his name, Manic, I think he also did some stuff for Mad. And here's Sergio again, and the depressed elephant. I won't get into that story, but this is great art, great storytelling. And People Plops, just more silly stuff. Oh, here's a Western drawn by Lee Mars. Yeah, and then, of course, Lee Mars is probably best known for her own series from the 80s of The Desert Peach. more plops. Here we go. And this is the uninvited guest. This is a plot by John Jacobson, but the script by Steve Skeates, drawn by Bill Draut, whom I've just talked about. You can see he's a more realistic, less cartoonish artist, but he pushes it just a little to add some humor to the art style. Here's this reporter talking to this old guy who is he's a comic book ghost breaker, and a little like Dr. Graves over at Charlton Comics. And he tells the story of this haunted house these people just moved into, and then here he's got Sergio inserting Kane in there, and these people just moved into this house, and it turned out to be haunted. But the ghost didn't try to hide, just come around and was rather friendly. Hello, but it was also mischievous, always doing things, coming out, hiding things. Things always right there, fully visible, hiding things, pulling little pranks. They weren't happy about that, and they got this ghost breaker guy. We would think Ghostbuster, but anyway, this is when he was younger, and he come in and try to get him to get rid of the ghost, and he tried all kinds of whatever, gobbledygook. And here, see, this is kind of funny because it's humorous. See, you can see he's a really capable illustrator. It's a good, well told, funny story, and well told visually. Nice, good detail in the backgrounds. Thoroughly, see, this is a story that could just as easily have been in House of Mystery. Even the way it comes out. The old drat. It doesn't work, it didn't work. And he said, well, so what did you do? How'd you get rid of him? Well, I didn't get rid of him, not exactly. I figured I couldn't get him out of that house by force, so I decided, here's the kicker, to give him a job. He brought him to his own house and hired him as a butler. That's funny. At least I think it's funny. And could be, see, and that is great. Some of the stuff that was great about Plop, because this could have been just as easily in House of Mystery or House of Secrets or even Ghosts. It didn't all have to be scary. And then here we are on the inside back cover. The last page by Sergio. The cavemen were not happy with the stories, and they chased them. They tried to take refuge in a cave, and then plop! It turned out that wasn't really a cave. It was a dinosaur's mouth, and now here they are stuck in the belly of the dinosaur. How they get out, we never know. And that is this issue of Plop. Now I gotta put her comic in a bag so it'll be in, she can keep it better. Okay, thanks for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and remember, even if it's Plop, comics are art.